Most people carry a deep misunderstanding about where danger actually comes from. They spend their lives preparing for loud enemies, for obvious threats, for competitors who challenge them directly. They believe the biggest risk to their position is a powerful opponent who will confront them openly. But this belief creates a dangerous blind spot. The truth is that most people do not lose their power because someone else is stronger. They lose their power because they quietly make other people stronger. Not through conflict, not through battle, but through something that looks completely harmless. They lose power through exposure. Think carefully about what this means. Every single time you reveal too much about yourself, every time you react emotionally to a small comment, every time you let your patterns become visible to others, you are giving away pieces of your position. You are making yourself easier to understand, easier to predict, and easier to manage. And the moment another person can read you clearly, they can control you without you ever realizing it is happening. This is one of the most important ideas about power that was understood deeply by Niccolò Machiavelli. Power does not shift when someone attacks you directly. Power shifts the moment you become predictable, because predictability is what creates control in any relationship, in any environment, and in any competition. If people know what hurts you, they know exactly where to apply pressure. If they know how you react when you feel stressed or anxious, they know exactly how to provoke you into making mistakes. If they understand your emotional patterns, your fears, your hopes, your insecurities, they know how to move you without using any force at all. And here's the part that most people never see coming. Power is almost never lost in one dramatic moment. It erodes slowly, quietly, through small behaviors that seem completely innocent in the moment. It erodes through oversharing personal struggles that should remain private. It erodes through quick emotional reactions that reveal your pressure points. It erodes through unnecessary explanations that make your thinking too transparent. It erodes through emotional exposure that feels honest and authentic, but is actually strategically careless. Many people genuinely believe that their openness makes them trustworthy. They believe that sharing everything about themselves, their struggles, their doubts, their fears, their personal history, makes them relatable and real. They think that vulnerability is always strength. But good intentions do not protect you from strategic observers. The problem is not honesty itself. The problem is honesty that has no discipline. There is a massive difference between being real and being readable. There is a difference between being authentic and being completely exposed. There is a difference between being transparent and handing other people a detailed map of your weaknesses. In any competitive environment, whether that environment is social, professional, or personal, information is always leverage. And every single time you reveal your emotional instability before you have processed it, every time you show your fears before you have controlled them, every time you display your triggers before you have mastered them, you give other people an advantage they did not have to earn. This message is not about becoming a cold person. It is not about becoming fake or hiding your humanity. It is not about building walls that keep everyone out. It is about developing discipline, psychological discipline, strategic visibility, and controlled disclosure. Today, you are going to learn 7 specific mistakes that people make every single day. These mistakes quietly elevate others above you. They look harmless. They feel honest. They seem like the right thing to do in the moment, but they are slowly lowering your authority, reducing your influence, and giving other people power over you that they should not have. And more importantly, you are going to learn how to protect your influence without becoming distant, cruel, or emotionally shut down. Because real power is not about being silent all the time. Real power is about selective expression. It is about knowing when to speak and when to hold back, when to share and when to protect, when to be vulnerable, and when to remain steady. Before we go any further into these 7 mistakes, I want you to do something. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comment section right now. Write these words: I reveal wisely. This is not just a phrase. It is a commitment you make to yourself. It is a reminder that from this moment forward, you are going to be more intentional about what you share, when you share it, and who you share it with. Now let us begin. The first mistake is sharing unresolved struggles publicly. There is a very important difference between sharing a lesson you have learned and displaying a wound that is still open. Most people do not see this difference clearly. They believe that openness builds connection with others. They believe that speaking honestly about their difficulties makes them relatable, authentic, and human. And in the right context, with the right people, that can be true. But timing is everything. Timing determines whether your vulnerability creates respect or reduces your authority. The critical error is speaking about a problem while you are still emotionally inside that problem. When you talk about a struggle that you have not yet worked through, your tone carries instability, your words carry uncertainty, your emotional state is still searching for relief, for validation, for reassurance that everything will be okay. And other people can feel that. Even if they respond with sympathy in the moment, their perception of you changes underneath the surface. Influence is built on emotional stability. It is built on the sense that you can handle pressure, that you can manage difficulty, that you remain steady when things get hard. When other people sense that your internal world is unsettled, they begin to question your strength. They begin to wonder about your judgment. They begin to doubt your reliability when the stakes are high. This does not mean you should never speak about difficulties. That would be unrealistic and unhealthy. The problem is not honesty. The problem is unfinished honesty. There is a massive difference between these two statements. Statement one, I went through a very difficult period in my life, and here is what it taught me about myself. Statement two, I am really struggling right now, and I have no idea how to handle it. The first statement communicates growth, strength, and wisdom. The second statement communicates instability, confusion, and vulnerability. When you share an experience that you have already processed, your message is controlled, your emotion is regulated, your story shows resolution, insight, and personal strength. But when you share an active struggle that you are still in the middle of, you are exposing your emotional position in real time. And once that position is visible to others, it becomes information. In supportive environments with people who genuinely care about you, that information might be treated with care and kindness. But not everyone operates from a place of support. Some people observe quietly. They store what they learn without you ever knowing. They remember your stress points. They remember your fears. They remember your doubts. They remember your moments of weakness. And later, when there is pressure, when there is competition, when there is conflict, that information becomes leverage against you. Another danger of sharing unresolved struggles is the erosion of your authority over time. Authority is not about being perfect. Nobody expects you to be perfect. Authority is about being steady. When your emotional state appears unstable in public spaces, your perceived reliability drops. People begin to see you as reactive rather than grounded. They begin to see you as someone who might fall apart when things get difficult. Even if your skills remain strong, even if your talent remains high, your psychological position weakens. Because in any environment, people trust stability more than they trust honesty. This is why strategic individuals process their emotions privately and communicate selectively. They talk about outcomes, not about emotional chaos. They share lessons after they have gained clarity, not during the confusion. They reveal growth, not turbulence. Another important factor is audience selection. Not everyone deserves access to your internal struggles. Emotional transparency should be earned, not broadcast to anyone who happens to be nearby. Trusted individuals who have proven their discretion and their loyalty over time are different from general audiences, from coworkers, from social media followers, from acquaintances. Public vulnerability creates permanent records. Private processing creates controlled relationships, and control protects your influence. This does not mean hiding your humanity. It means protecting your emotional timing, because when people only see you during the storm, they remember instability. But when they see you after the storm, they remember strength. The shift is simple but powerful. Share resolution, not emotional volatility. When your story communicates clarity instead of confusion, your experiences increase your authority instead of weakening it. The second mistake is assuming that fairness is universal. One of the fastest ways to strengthen your opposition without realizing it is to assume that everyone thinks the way you do. Most people believe that fairness is a shared value that everyone holds. They believe that if they act with balance, with honesty, and with good intentions, other people will naturally respond the same way. But in reality, people operate by incentives, not by ideals. Some people value cooperation. Some people value personal advantage. Some people value loyalty to their group. Some people value opportunity above everything else. When you project your own standards onto someone who operates by a completely different set of rules, you misread the situation, and misreading people creates vulnerability. This mistake usually shows up in the form of premature trust. You compromise early to show goodwill. You reveal your position to demonstrate transparency. You give concessions to keep things balanced. You assume the other person will meet you halfway. But if the other person is operating strategically, your fairness becomes information for them. They learn your limits, they learn your priorities, they learn how much pressure it takes for you to give ground. And once someone knows your threshold, they do not negotiate with you anymore. They manage you. They push right up to the edge of what you will accept without ever going past it, keeping you exactly where they want you. Another danger of assuming fairness is emotional expectation. When you believe that others should act according to your standards, you become surprised and often frustrated when they do not. That surprise frequently leads to emotional reactions, to frustration, to overreaction, to rushed decisions made in the heat of the moment. And emotional reactions reveal your pressure points. Strategic individuals do not begin with trust. They begin with observation. Instead of assuming that someone values balance and fairness, they watch how that person behaves when there is tension, when there is disagreement, when there is competition. Because character is not revealed during smooth interactions when everything is easy. Character is revealed under pressure. Anyone can appear cooperative when there is no cost to being cooperative. But when stakes rise, true priorities become visible. Do they protect mutual benefit, or do they shift to personal advantage when it benefits them? Do they honor agreements, or do they adjust them when circumstances change in their favor? Do they stay consistent, or do they shift their position when leverage appears on their side? These patterns matter far more than any promises someone makes with words. Another common mistake related to fairness is early compromise. Many people believe that giving something first creates goodwill and encourages reciprocity. Sometimes this works with people who value relationship, but with strategic personalities, early compromise signals something very different. It signals flexibility without resistance. Instead of creating trust, it lowers your perceived negotiating strength in their eyes. They do not see generosity. They see room to push further. They see someone who will give ground if they apply enough pressure. Positioning matters in all human interactions. When you hold your ground calmly and avoid unnecessary concessions, you communicate stability. You show that cooperation is possible, but not automatic. That balance earns far more respect than early accommodation ever will. The goal here is not suspicion of everyone you meet. The goal is clarity about human nature. Trust should be built on observed behavior over time, not on assumed character. This requires patience. Strategic patience means allowing people to reveal their patterns naturally. Small inconsistencies, subtle boundary tests, and pressure responses provide more accurate information than words ever will. Once you truly understand someone's incentive structure, your decisions become much more precise. You know when to collaborate fully, you know when to limit access to certain information, you know when to protect your position and when to advance it. And most importantly, you stop expecting fairness from people who are operating by advantage, because expectations create emotional exposure. Observation creates control. When you stop projecting your standards onto others and start studying their actual incentives, you remove one of the biggest ways that people quietly gain leverage over you. Now I want you to drop this second affirmation in the comments. Write these words: I observe first. This is a reminder that before you trust, before you share, before you compromise, you watch, you learn, you understand the person you are dealing with. Observation protects you from assumptions that leave you exposed. The third mistake is reacting to subtle provocation. Not all attacks are loud and obvious. In fact, the most effective attacks are quiet. A small comment delivered with just the wrong tone, a slight interruption while you are speaking, a dismissive look across the table, a casual joke that feels just a little too personal. These are not always accidents. In many environments, subtle provocation is used specifically to test your emotional control. It is not meant to create open conflict. It is meant to study your reaction, because reactions reveal sensitivity, and sensitivity creates leverage for others. Most people think that power is shown through strong responses. So when they feel provoked, they defend themselves quickly. They correct the comment, they explain their position, they adjust their tone to show that they were affected. But the moment your emotional state becomes visible to others, information is exposed. A slight shift in your voice, a longer explanation than the situation requires, a defensive clarification that you did not need to make, visible discomfort that you cannot hide. These are micro reactions, and strategic observers pay very close attention to them. They are not focused on the words you are saying. They are studying what moves you. If a small comment changes your energy, they learn where your emotional boundaries are thin. If you rush to defend your competence, They learn that you are sensitive about your status. If you react emotionally to mild criticism, they learn that pressure works on you. Once someone identifies your triggers, they do not need to challenge you directly anymore. They only need to apply subtle pressure in the right place at the right time. That is how leverage is created without any confrontation at all. The real danger here is that most people react automatically. They do not pause. They do not evaluate the intent behind what just happened. They respond emotionally because the moment feels personal. But power lives in delayed response. When you control your timing, you control your visibility. Instead of reacting immediately, you allow space to enter the moment. You let the moment pass without grabbing onto it. You observe the context. Was that comment intentional or accidental? Was it a test or was it genuine? Was it casual conversation or strategic probing? That small pause protects your emotional position. Calm neutrality creates uncertainty for the other person. They do not get the feedback they were looking for. They cannot measure your sensitivity. They cannot confirm whether their attempt had any effect on you at all. And when someone cannot read your emotional impact, their ability to manage you decreases significantly. Silence, when it is controlled, is not weakness. It is emotional discipline. Another important factor here is emotional economy. Every visible reaction costs you something in terms of psychological positioning. The more often your emotions shift in response to small stimuli, the easier it becomes for others to influence your state. But when your emotional baseline remains steady and consistent, your reactions become rare, and rare reactions carry weight. If you remain calm through minor pressure, but respond firmly when something truly matters, people learn that your reactions are deliberate, not automatic. That perception increases your authority over time. It also changes future behavior around you. When subtle provocations consistently fail to produce visible results, people stop testing you. There is no feedback loop. There is no leverage to gain. There is no advantage to be found. Consistency in emotional control creates a protective barrier around your position. Another mistake people make in this area is over-explaining after a perceived slight. They try to correct how they were seen. They add context that was not requested. They justify their reaction, but justification signals impact, and impact confirms sensitivity. Sometimes the strongest response is no visible response at all. Control your timing, control your expression, control what others are allowed to measure, because the less they can read your emotional pressure points, the harder it becomes for them to move you. The fourth mistake is over-explaining your decisions. Many people genuinely believe that the more they explain, the more they will be understood by others. So they add context, they add reasoning, they add background information, they repeat their logic in different ways, hoping that clarity will finally create acceptance. But excessive explanation does not increase authority, it actually reduces it. Because the psychology of over-explaining sends a hidden message that most people do not realize they are communicating. That message is this: I need you to agree with me. The moment your communication sounds like you are seeking validation instead of simply stating a decision, your position weakens. Others begin to sense uncertainty, even if your choice was completely correct. Authority is not measured by how detailed your explanation is. Authority is measured by how confidently you can stand behind a clear statement. When your decisions come with long justifications, with multiple reassurances, with repeated clarifications, people do not just hear your reasoning, they hear your hesitation, and hesitation invites challenge. Strategic observers understand this pattern deeply. If you feel the need to explain every decision in depth, they learn that pressure will make you talk more. They learn that disagreement will make you defend yourself. And once they know that, they do not bother debating your decision directly. They question your confidence instead. And confidence is often more persuasive than any logical argument. Another problem with over-explaining is that it opens negotiation where no negotiation was needed. When you present too much reasoning, people start picking apart the details instead of simply respecting the outcome. Instead of hearing the decision clearly, they begin analyzing the explanation. Why this part? What about that option? Have you considered this alternative instead? You unintentionally move the conversation from direction to debate. Clear authority works very differently. Strong communicators state their position simply and directly. They give enough information to provide basic context, but not so much that the decision feels open for approval. Concise communication signals internal certainty, and certainty discourages unnecessary resistance from others. Another hidden danger of over-explaining is emotional exposure. The more you talk, the more your internal thinking becomes visible to others. Your doubts start to show, your concerns become apparent, your priorities and your pressure points all begin to surface. Information that was never necessary to share becomes available. And information creates leverage. Strategic communication protects your internal process. You share outcomes, not your entire mental journey. You reveal direction, not every uncertainty you considered along the way. This does not mean being cold or dismissive toward people. It means being precise. Precision respects both your authority and the other person's attention at the same time. There is also a perception effect at work in all human communication. People naturally associate brevity with confidence. When someone speaks clearly and then stops, it signals that their position is settled. But when someone continues talking to reinforce the same point over and over, it creates the impression that they are trying to convince rather than lead. The difference is subtle but incredibly powerful. Leadership language is calm and contained. Approval-seeking language is long and repetitive. Another important principle here is repetition control. Many people restate their decisions multiple times when they sense hesitation from others. They believe that repeating will strengthen their position. In reality, repetition signals doubt. State clearly one time. Clarify once if needed. Then move forward. When your words are limited and intentional, they carry more weight. When your communication is measured, people listen more carefully because what is rare feels important. Over time, this habit changes how others respond to you. They stop expecting long explanations. They stop testing your decisions through endless questions. They learn that when you speak, the direction is already decided, and that perception protects your influence. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments now. Write these words: I speak with certainty. This is a reminder that your words have power when they are measured. You do not need to justify yourself to everyone. You do not need to explain until everyone agrees. You speak clearly and then you move forward. Now, I want you to drop one final affirmation in the comments. Write these words: I control my exposure. This is the summary of everything we have discussed today. You are the one who decides what others see. You are the one who decides when to share and when to remain private. You are the one who controls your own visibility. And when you control your exposure, you control your power. Remember this above everything else. When you speak less and observe more, when you reveal with intention instead of impulse, your presence changes. People feel something different about you. They cannot quite explain it, but they know that you are not someone who can be easily managed. They know that you are not someone who can be easily read. They know that you are not someone who will react predictably to pressure. And when that perception spreads, the balance of power shifts in your direction. Not because you fought anyone, not because you defeated anyone, but because you stopped making yourself easy to control. That is the foundation of lasting influence. That is the discipline of strategic visibility. And it is available to you starting right now, in this moment, with the very next interaction you have. You have learned the 7 mistakes today. You have seen how sharing unresolved struggles weakens your position. You have seen how assuming fairness creates vulnerability. You have seen how reacting to subtle provocation reveals your triggers. You have seen how over-explaining your decisions reduces your authority. You have seen how publicly labeling your weaknesses limits your opportunities. You have seen how failing to recognize when you are being studied gives away information. And you have seen how emotional expression before strategic clarity costs you leverage. Now, the question is not whether you understand these ideas. The question is whether you will apply them. Knowledge without application changes nothing. You can watch this video 10 times and still make the same mistakes if you do not practice the discipline. So start small. Pick one of these 7 areas and focus on it for the next week. Notice when you are about to share an unresolved struggle and pause. Notice when you are about to react emotionally to a small provocation and breathe instead. Notice when you are over-explaining a decision and stop yourself. Small changes repeated consistently create new patterns, and new patterns create a new reality for you. If this content helped you see your blind spots more clearly, take a moment right now to support this message. Hit the like button so more people can discover how to protect their influence. Share this video with someone you care about who needs stronger boundaries in their life. And if you are serious about mastering power, discipline, and psychological control, subscribe to the channel. This is where strength is built, one insight at a time. Every video is designed to give you practical tools you can use immediately to improve your position in life. Drop your final affirmation in the comments now. I control my exposure. Let that statement sink into your mind. Let it become a habit. Let it guide your choices from this day forward. Because when you control your exposure, you control your life. And that is the deepest power of all.